light of Yah, the Most High, shine down on and in the lives of all of the Creator's righteous children resurrecting as gods on earth. So ancestors hit me today, or hit me a little while ago, and was like, explain to the people the creation story. I think that's how I heard it. I think that's what I heard them say. Explain to the people the creation story. And I'm like, why do I need to explain to the people the creation story? Because ancestors inside of me, they heard people talking about the out of Africa theory. The out of Africa theory. And if I'm not mistaken, the out of Africa theory says that everybody on the planet originated in Africa, that all races originated in Africa. And ancestors want people to know that that is not correct. All people did not originate out of Africa. Not everybody can claim to be a descendant of Africa. So that's what the ancestors wanted me to explain. All right, so in the beginning. All right, keep this in mind, right? The universe, all of that black that's up above you, that is the biblical Most High. Original 1611 King James Bible, Psalm chapter 82, verse 6. I said, ye are gods, ye are all children of the Most High. The Most High is the universe. The Most High is the creator. The universe is the Most High. The universe is the creator. The universe, where I'm from, is considered a feminine energy because it is giving birth to everything. Everything inside of the universe is designed and brought forth by the universe, including this planet that we are on, including the planet Earth. So when the universe gave birth to the planet Earth, let us think of the planet Earth as below. And let us think of the ether, or the universe, all of that black above us, let us think of that as the above. The universe is the above. The planet Earth, everything here on planet Earth is below. When the universe, when the creator, when the Most High gave birth to the universe, when the universe, when the creator, the Most High, when it gave birth to the earth had water on it. Water is a very important tool when it comes down to bringing forth life. Even as babies, when you're a baby in your mother's womb, you are inside of embryonic fluid. That's a type of water. Everything starts in the water. So here below, there was water here below. Now here's the question. How many oceans? How many bodies of water? How many oceans? I'm not talking about lakes and ponds and rivers. We're specifically talking about oceans. How many oceans are there? You have your Pacific Ocean. You got your Indian Ocean. You have your Atlantic Ocean. You got the Antarctic Ocean. That's 4 oceans. Those 4 oceans brought forth their own species. Those 4 oceans brought forth their own species in the 4 corners of the earth. So let's say the Indian Ocean brought forth all of its species in the South Hemisphere. The Pacific Ocean brought forth all of its species in the East Hemisphere. The Atlantic Ocean brought forth all of its species in the West Hemisphere. The Antarctic Ocean brought forth all of its species in the North Hemisphere. And when I say all of its species, think of, let's start with the Indian Ocean and all of its species in the South Hemisphere. There are animals and insects and plant life and humanity that is in the South Hemisphere that you will not find in the West, in the East, or in the North Hemispheres. You will only find these things in the South Hemisphere. The Pacific Ocean, you know what I'm saying? When you want to think about everybody out in the East Hemisphere, there are animals, there are insects, there is plant life and people that you will only find in the East Hemisphere. You won't find them in the South, you won't find them in the West, and you won't find them in the North. Same thing with the North Hemisphere. When you think of everything that's up in the North Hemisphere, there are animals, there are insects, there is plant life, and there are humanity that's in the North Hemisphere that you will not find in the South, the West, or the East. And same thing with the West Hemisphere. There's plant life, there's insects, there's animals, there is humanity that originated in the West Hemisphere that you will not find in the South, in the East, or in the North. So these four bodies of water brought forth their own species in the four hemispheres here below on Earth. Now there is another water that we need to take into consideration, and that is the water that is above us, the universe above us. That is another body of water. And that body of water above came down here below. And the water above that manifested itself onto this earth is what we refer to as biblical God. And this water above manifested itself here below in the middle of all of those other bodies of water. In the middle of the Indian Ocean, in the middle of the Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Antarctic Ocean, in the middle of these oceans is what we refer to as Africa. The universe, the water above manifested itself here below on the land that we are calling Africa. The only people on this planet that can claim to be connected to that bloodline, connected to that water, are those who have mixed blood with them people that originate out of that land. That have mixed blood with those people who come down from the universe, manifestations of the universe, living in Africa, who mixed blood with Africans. Those are the only ones that can claim to be out of Africa or connected to Africans or children of God. You cannot call yourself a child of God if you do not have African bloodline in your veins. Once again, there are species that came out of the Indian Ocean in the South Hemisphere that have their own bloodline. There are species that came out of the Pacific Ocean over in the East Hemisphere that have their own bloodline. There are species that came out of the Atlantic Ocean here in the West Hemisphere that have their own bloodline. There are species that came out of the Antarctic Ocean in the North Hemisphere and they have their own bloodline. All of these bloodlines were not supposed to mix because each of these bloodlines, when the earth was birthed by the universe and the earth brought forth these species from the four bodies of water, each of these species coming out of those bodies of water had their own purpose on this earth. In order for this earth to function properly and to stay in sync with the universe, these four bodies of water were not supposed to mix. These four bodies of water and the species that came up out of them were not supposed to mix. And that is how the earth stays in sync with the universe. But to make sure that the earth stayed in sync with the universe manifested itself onto the planet in the form of black Africans, gods, that brought forth laws, statutes, and commandments on how to maintain decency and order on this planet in order for this planet to stay in balance with the universe. So originally, none of these bloodlines were supposed to mix, but they did mix. And then, those of you that, study the Bible, but, you studying it, through the lens of some of people that either intentionally or just ignorantly are teaching it wrong. They are intentionally teaching it wrong. There are people that have learned it wrong and now they're teaching it wrong out of ignorance. But in the Bible, what you see are these prophets always showing up. These prophets of biblical Israel always showing up, attempting to put this planet back in order again, trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And they either end up, let's just put it like this, they end up dismissed, they end up discredited, they end up demonized, and then they end up getting destroyed by humanity that's going in the wrong direction. You get these manifestations that come down from the universe, these prophets of God that come down here and attempt to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And because people have been living the wrong way for centuries, thinking that they know everything, thinking that they are wise, they don't hear what it is that these manifestations of the universe be saying to them. And so they end up dismissing them, end up discrediting them, end up demonizing them. And then if that particular manifestation of the universe don't shut up, they'll end up destroying it. And then what happens when that energy that they destroyed returns back to the universe? An extinction level event happens, where the universe that gave birth to the planet sends a signal to the planet and tells the planet to erase that cancer that's on the planet, that cancer that is causing the planet to fall out of balance and fall out of sync with the universe. An extinction level event comes, and then all of them so-called wise folks that knew everything and didn't want to listen to what the manifestation of the universe said, everybody ends up erased by an extinction level event. Ezra chapter 9, Ezra chapter 10. In the New Testament, people talk about the gospel of Christ. I am telling you that Christ is not an individual. Christ represents a kingdom that once existed on this planet. The Hebrew definition for the English word Christ is to pardon, to spare, to forgive. The Hebrew definition for the English word God, you will see judges and magistrates. What do judges and magistrates do? They pardon people. They forgive people. They spare people. After laying down the law or relaying down the law, explaining the law, then the gods or the judges and the magistrates, they forgive, they pardon, they spare those that they taught the law to, in hopes that everyone that heard the law will repent of the nonsense that they was doing. So the New Testament, you have descendants or you have manifestations of the universe. You have these gods on earth that are trying to separate people from the mentality of Greece and Rome. Separate people from the mentality of Greco-Romans. Separate people from the ways of the Greeks and the Romans, and get them to go back to living according to the ways of the universe. In the New Testament, you have, and then let me say Jesus. You have Jesus. The Hebrew definition for the English word Jesus is life and living. Life and living. That means what Jesus is everybody that is under the banner of the Ankh cross in that East African territory. Every citizen under the banner of the Ankh cross is a Jesus. And you have these citizens under the banner of the Ankh cross teaching or reiterating Ezra chapter 9, Ezra chapter 10. This is what they're trying to get to happen. They're trying to get people to understand the number one sin on this planet that's throwing everything out of balance is mixing up these bloodlines that we're not supposed to mix. And it's taking everybody out of their purpose. The species that came out of the Indian Ocean, the species that came out of the Pacific Ocean, the species that came out of the Atlantic Ocean, the species that came out of the Antarctic Ocean. Everything that came out of these four bodies of water in these four hemispheres, everything is out of balance now. Nothing is operating in its original order because of the mentality that's on this planet from these so-called wise people. These wise people, all they are freaks of nature. They doing tests on their bloodlines and looking at their DNA. They coming to the conclusion that they are not operating with 100% of their brain. They have come to that conclusion. They have discovered that they are not. They're a brain capacity. They're not even using 100% of their brain capacity. So how do you get back to using 100% of your brain capacity? Well, you gotta end the pollution of your bloodline. The Bible is showing y'all that. If you read Nehemiah chapter 7, you'll see that word in there. Nehemiah chapter 7, I think it's somewhere between verses 60 to 65, somewhere in there. It talks about how, when the kingdom of the gods was being rebuilt and people were returning thinking that they were actually descendants of that kingdom, and then they found out that no, you don't have access to this kingdom. You don't have access to this resurrection because you are polluted. What is being rebuilt here, you are not in the position to rebuild this. Based on, the content of your book. Some of these people were showing up with wives that they were not even supposed to be married to, showing up with husbands that they wasn't even supposed to be married to, thinking that they was going to have access to the resurrection of the kingdom. And it's like, no. And whose fault is that? Is it their fault that humanity been going in the wrong direction since the day that they was born? They were born in sin, shaped in that iniquity, operating in that iniquity. Was it their fault? No, it's not their fault. But when it's explained to them what they need to do to fix the problem, shoot, you have a lot of people that want to fight against that. When they find out that they are not the smartest person on the block, when they find out that they are actually the problem on the planet, when they find out all this time that they were actually the son of perdition, now they want to fight. Now the ego get the best of them. Now they want to kill everybody that's correcting them. And pollution of the bloodline makes people freaks of nature. And then, that's when you get that haughty and high-minded spirit. Can't tell them nothing. And all the while they saying, well, can't nobody tell you nothing. So now it's just like all this finger pointing. And that's how extinction level events happen. That's how it all goes down. That's what makes the universe turn on the planet and erase everybody. Because the damage, it gets so far gone. It's like there's nothing else the universe can do. It's like the people on the planet are totally disconnected from me. They can't even hear my voice anymore. And rather than allowing the negative energy that's on this planet to continue to ascend up into the universe, instead of allowing this frequency to continue to ascend into the universe and create problems in the universe, it's best to just go ahead and just erase all of it. Because we will not have another asteroid belt situation. I'm not even going to get into that. But I'll just tell you that is something that is not going to happen again. That asteroid belt, I'm just going to say that is the result of allowing a particular problem on a planet to go too long. That is the result of God's to pardon, to spare, to forgive, allowing that to go on for so long that the negative energy reduces the planet to rubble. Now the asteroid belt is a threat to other planets in the universe. All of them rocks and boulders and everything on that orbit, they don't stay on that orbit. Keep in mind what I said at the beginning, that Earth was birthed by the universe. Everything on this earth is birthed by the universe. So when you have these species that come out of the Indian Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Antarctic Ocean, you have these species that come out from down here below. Even though they're not directly from the universe, they're directly from this planet below, they are still products of the universe that should recognize the universe when the universe is among it. These species that come from the water below should recognize when the water from above is among it. But for some reason, they don't recognize it. And when the water above comes to the conclusion that the water below does not recognize which one is the authority, that's when we got problems. That's when we have problems. That's when we see empires falling. That's when we see extinction of bloodlines, extinction of species. That is when we see no more decency and order, because the below does not recognize the that which is from above. I hope I'm conveying the message from the ancestors properly. All I can say is that, he that hath an ear to hear, an eye to see, and ultimately comprehend what is being said, I will end it with this. In the original 1611 King James Bible, Psalm chapter 82, emphasis on verse 8. First there's verse 6, and then verse 7 happened, and that is what we are right now. We are in a fallen state. But everything that I just said is leading to verse 8, the resurrection. How does the resurrection happen? What do we do to resurrect gods on earth? Go read Ezra chapter 9 and Ezra chapter 10. It's the purification of these bloodlines. These species from the south, from the north, the east, and west. We got to get these people to repent and stop polluting these bloodlines. This is what the reset is really about. I've noticed that people are co-opting there's a lot of people that are co-opting things that I've said on my Facebook. If you're not following me on Facebook, I'm Thomas Lenny on Facebook. ThoMas Lenny, Linney on Facebook. You'll see that I'm like shadow banned over there, but people are taking things that I've said on Facebook and they're co-opting it and turning it into something else, which is preventing the resurrection from happening. Same thing on my Tommy Lenny Facebook. Tommy Lenny, Linney. You'll see that I talked about a reset. But then when they talk about a reset, it's something totally different. You'll see that the term woke is being used on my Facebook platform, but when they use the term woke, it's something totally different. Overall, Psalm 82 verse 8, resurrection of the gods on earth. Obviously, we are dealing with mental illness on this planet that are preventing that from happening. And I mean, when you read Ezra chapter 9, Ezra chapter 10, you'll understand why that is. This is a baptism with fire. Purification of the bloodline, that's baptism with fire. It's the result of, people allowing their love to go too far. And then, when somebody like us show up, to, end that particular love, it burns the heart. Because that's where love comes from. Love is from the heart. And when you come to separate that, or when you come to put an end to that, That's like being baptized with fire. But you will see that there was a repentance. Ezra chapter 10, when they understood ultimately, that this is the main problem on the planet. This is the reason why the planet is not returning back to its original order. Why there's like all of these wars and all of these sicknesses and diseases, and just the reason why heaven is not on earth. When people come to the conclusion that this is the reason why heaven is not on earth, they ultimately repent, or they repented of what it was that they were doing. And you see people putting their wives away. This is the reason why they fight against people like me. It's the reason why they shadow ban people like me. It's the reason why they dismiss, demonize, discredit, and then try to destroy somebody like me. Because the message is not a popular message. It darn sure don't sound nothing like what's being taught in these churches, does it? It darn sure don't sound like nothing that's being taught by these religions, does it? But meanwhile, I'm teaching from the very same book that these religions are teaching from, but these religions are not teaching the book according to how, they're not teaching the book according to the understanding of the people that came up out of that African territory. They're teaching it in a way that allows them to continue to be in control of a planet that they have lost control over. And then when the people that's supposed to have control of the planet come down to try to gain control of the planet, you see how they act. You see how they conduct themselves. They turn into high school students, don't they? So, I didn't mean to go on again, but once again, Psalm chapter 82, verse 8. Arise, O God, and judge the earth, and thou shalt inherit all kingdoms. Meaning that those of us who are manifestations of the universe, it is our responsibility to find those that those who can claim African bloodline. Even though these bloodlines were not supposed to mix, there are those that do have this bloodline. There are species from the south, species from the north, species from the east, and species from the west that are connected to this bloodline. But when you get them to understand that they got to stop the bloodline pollution for the benefit of the north hemisphere, the south hemisphere, the east hemisphere, and the west hemisphere, when you get them to understand that the pollution of these bloodlines has to end, then they can resurrect their kingdoms and make their kingdoms operate the way that those kingdoms are supposed to operate, while we are resurrecting our kingdom and making our kingdom in Africa operate the way that it's supposed to operate. The species in the north, the south, the east, and the west, they will return back to their original nature. And then those of us from the territory that's known as Africa, or the cradle of life, then we will be back into our right mind. We will have our right mind and reconnected with the universe, and we'll be able to govern the planet like how we used to, because the species in the north, south, east, and west are now back in their original mindset. And this Frankenstein mentality that's been running this planet or ruling over this planet, eventually that mess will die off. But of course, you know, if folks don't want to listen, again, if folks want to ignore us, again, well, you know how it's going to go down. You know how it's going to go down. And then we will be another 3,000 years in the darkness, awaiting for this moment again, awaiting another chance to resurrect. Honestly, I'm hoping we don't have to go another 3,000 years. I'm hoping that this is going to be it. I'm hoping that, you know, we don't have to waste another 3,000 years of lifetimes before our freedom comes. All right, peace, blessings, love, and light of Yah the Most High shine down on and in the lives of all of the Creator's righteous children, resurrecting as gods on earth. Ancestors' protection be around y'all. Live righteous.